I am from Bailan School of International Studies, where I've studied my media science. And it was only after a few years back, after a few years, I went to study from American TESOL Institution, and I studied English there. It's an international certified program under the laws of United States of America. From there, I graduated my training course. So today I'm going to talk about English as a communication tool. First of all, let me just give you a brief interview of how English came. Uh, English is a language of West Germany. The West Germans invaded England in 1600s, and there they have their colonization now, which resulted as an England, or what we know it is England. So communication. What is communication? Two-way process. One is giving and the other one is receiving. Giving and receiving of what? Of informations, of ideas. It's not just two people having a conversation. That wouldn't consider as a communication. That doesn't qualify as a communication, right? So what is there that a simple conversation doesn't have? You are having your own ideas, you are giving your ideas, and the people are accepting it, or whether they're making an evaluation or they're not. So this is how people give and people receive information through centuries, and this is what we used to call as communication. It connects to the people and places from where we used to have a trade and commerce, from the entire world, in any place in the whole world. The other one is English language is a standard language to communicate officially among the native speakers as well as for the non-natives. Okay, so what is a native speaker and what is a non-native speaker? There are two differences. One is people who are living in a native speaking country, for example, from England, those who are from United States, from Canada, from South Africa, from New Zealand, from Australia. They are known as native English speakers since their mother tongue is in English. And non-native falls into the category of the people living in India, living in Philippines, living in Caribbean islands, because we do know English, but it is not a mother tongue, since we have our own language in our country. So but English is a very important part. It's a very important language in Indian history, in Indian politics, in Indian constitution as well, because our constitution, our Indian constitution, is being written in English. So that comprises of being a very dominative language in the Indian world or to the Indian people. The internet revolution is being found out by the CERN network, and it's been popularized in 1992. Since the internet became very popular in India, and at first it was all in English. Right now we are having our own zonal, regional languages, but it was very after that. So that we came to know about this revolution. Okay, it is an acquired language. Why? Because since we're not from the native speaking countries, since we are from India, it is not exactly our own language, or what I talked about before. It is not our mother tongue. So we acquired it by the help of British. The British British taught us the language, bottom line. So since it is an acquired language, people from different zones of India, from the north, from the southern region, from the west, from the east, used to have a different typical hint of our own language. For example, whenever a Bengali people is talking in English, they used to have that Bengali flavor in that language. Since it is an acquired language, it's been given to us, but it's not a mother tongue. So we will have our own accents all through the zones in India. Right. So this is the history of English. And now we're going to talk about how to learn in a very easy way of spoken English. And let me tell you one thing, it's a very important note to um, listen, is um, writing English, written English, very much, not by any stretch of imagination, it's comparable. I mean, it's very similar to written English. Spoken English is very much different from that of written English. So, and spoken English is all about the local language, the colloquial one, whereas written is a bit different from that of this thing. Okay, so and any language you see, any language in this whole world, you can say English, Spanish, French, or any language in this world comprises of four parts. The first one is letters, words, sentence, and a paragraph. So letters, or you can call it as alphabets, is what a letter of the language. For example, A, B, C, D, they are letters. That comprises, I mean, if you combine 4 or 5 letters, it becomes a word. For example, I'm taking this word itself as an example. It's W-O-R-D. This W, each and every, this W-O-R-D, these are 4 letters. In combination, it becomes a word. But what we're going to talk about, what we're going to deal out here is a sentence. Because more or less, wherever you go, whatever you do, I mean, no matter how much you study English, it always comes to a sentence. We'll have to make it somehow. I mean, sentence is all about composition. You combine this line, and it becomes a sentence. You comprise this word, and it becomes a sentence. And that's what we used to talk about. For example, I'm from a non-native speaking country. I'm from India, but I can talk this much fluent to all of you. All I did was I have done a lot of research on how to make a sentence, of how to construct a sentence. And now here I am, I can speak. Well, I'm just a person like you are. If I can, then there's no doubt that why you wouldn't and why you won't. I can bet on that, probably. Okay. So, English is a stressed language. Stressed language is what? For example, if we consider these 2 words, for example, if we take a word as CAT, it's pronounced as cat, but not sat. But if you consider the letters, A, it's an A, B, and C. It's a C letter. But whenever we used to combine those 3 words, it is pronounced as a K, but it's not pronounced as a C. So we'll have to see where is exactly the stress. I mean, it's different from those of what we know as, or what we learned about, the alphabets or the words, right? So I'll come to that later. The basic fact of this language, there are like various ways to deal with any kind of a situation. For example, if we're about to show politeness to the others, how many different ways we can do the greeting, right? If we saw a person, or if we're going to introduce to a person, for example, how are you, will go a long way. Or how do you do? Sorry. Very much indeed. Acceptable. How are things going? What is up with you? are you? Okay. For example, if you're meeting a person, maybe for the first time, or you know a person, you do have an acquaintance, but you don't know the person that very well. So, for example, you're going to start the chat. You're going to introduce yourself, or maybe you're going to ask that person, how is he? It's up to your uh, politeness, or it's up to your credit that you'll have to know how is that person, right? Or it's more of a way of greeting. It's more of a way of allowing politeness to each other. How are you? It's very colloquial. Everyone does that these days. How do you do? It's a little bit formal. For example, people in the 50s, people in the 60s, people in the 70s used to greet them as, or used to show polite, used to have a conversation like this, in this way. How do you do? It also means how are you? Then there's how are things going? What is up with you? What are you up to? And so on. So these are the ways you can greet a person, you can show a politeness in both a formal way and in a non-informal way. This is a basic. If we consider the facts of nature, for example, say the earth is blue. So the earth is blue. We all know the earth is blue. The earth is not green. The earth is not black. The earth is not white. The earth is blue. Right? This is a fact. It falls under the category of what we used to know as a factful or factful information. This is a fact. I mean, it is. We may not know whether it is a truth or not, but we know it for a fact that the earth is blue, and we're not going to investigate it. Right? Not for the common people. It's not up to our cup of tea. For them, the archaeologists, all of it. Okay, whatever. That's a different scenario. Right now, say the sun always shines. We know it. Everyone knows it, and will say this thing preferably, that the sun always shines, and we know it shines every day for 12 hours, for long 12 hours, and we just know it. It rises and it sets. So these are the factual information. These are the kind of the speaking categories that you'll need whenever you're addressing facts, figures, or the truths, for example. Okay, so there's another. Let me give another example. Habitual conversation. Okay, what is habitual conversation? For example, I take tea. What do I mean by that? In other words, I take tea. I take tea. I take coffee. I take eggs. I take wine. Whatever. So what do I mean by I take tea? It means I do have the habit of taking tea in the morning. Right? Take tea in the morning. This would be a little more appropriate. So I take tea in the morning. It simply means I do have the habit of taking tea in the morning, or in every morning, or every evening. I used to take tea. I take eggs for breakfast. How to do it? The equation is very simple. I take eggs for breakfast. It means every day I do have the habit of taking eggs, right? These are known as habitual conversations, right? Okay. So these are the very basics that you once you come to learn about the English, you'll get to know all about this, and it's very basic, and it's very friendly to each other. Like these are the friendly conversations that people used to have with each other. Okay. English, as we all know, is the most important language in the whole world, and everybody wants to learn it. Why? Because it is the most popular language in the whole world. I know every one of you, each one of you, whether you're a housewife, whether you're a business person, whether you're appearing for an interview, whether you're going to introduce yourself to the other people, whether you're transferring, whether people are, some organization is transferring you from here and there to the native speaking countries, then you will need it, at least for communication. You will need this language as for communication. So no matter wherever you are, if you want to learn English, if you want to learn spoken English, and it's never that hard. Really, it's never that hard. And I'll make it easier for you. That much I can promise. So it doesn't matter whether you're a housewife, whether you're a businessman, whether you're doing this thing, that thing, whoever you are, whatever you do, you can speak in English and you can take a lesson always in English. But the problem is you'll have to practice. As we all know, that we have to, practice, it's what makes makes a man perfect, or a woman, or any other person. The more you practice, the more you'll get to know about the language, of how the language is all about. What is its beauty? If you don't listen, you won't be able to speak. For that, you need to listen. For that, you need to, watch TV. And what I meant by TV was watching movies in English, watching Hollywood TV series, and that will help you a lot in the long run, that much I can tell you. And there's the other thing, you'll have to read newspapers every day. Try to make a habit of that. And in that way, you'll get to know very much. You're already halfway there, right? So it's very important to practice. And before practicing it, you need to make a lot of time to know the language better by listening to it. Because always remember, an accent comes from listening, not by speaking. If you listen good, you'll be able to you'll be able to speak good. And that's for certain, that's for sure. Okay? Now, there are many words in English. For example, let me give an example, which do have the same pronunciation, but used to have different meanings. For example, ear. Ear. We can easily make a sentence from this word. The deer lives in the jungle. Right? And this deer. Both of them sounds the same, but in actuality, the meaning is entirely different from each other. And this deer is the one who's very near. For example, if you're writing a letter to a very dear one, you would say, "My dear Subhash," or any other. Okay. Rain. Rain. We all know that rain falls out of the sky, right? There's clouds, and this clouds makes the rain on the treetops. So rain and rain. These two words may sound the same, but they're entirely different, right? These are known as homophones or synonyms. Words which sounds the same, but means different. Now we're going to talk about synonyms. I'm just giving an example. I mean, you're not going to need, grammar is a very boring part in spoken English. Now, let me tell you. If I want to give an example, for example, people living in the United States, people living in Canada, they are not at all bothered about the grammar. All they know is the language. But how they know the language? Because it's a mother tongue. And what do you mean by that? All of the people, nearly 80% of the people, 80% of the Americans are speaking only in that language. So you don't need to know grammar to learn a language. Really, you're just learning a language, come on. You don't need to know all the grammar, right? You just need to know the language. What are its constructions? What are its compositions of ideas, of informations? So this is exactly what it's needed in case you want to learn the spoken English. Okay, now what are synonyms? It means words, it's exactly opposite to the homonyms, or what I told you earlier. Words which mean the same but sounds different, right? For example, the car is fast. Okay? Rapid. So, do you see any difference between fast and rapid? Fast. Anything could be a fast thing. For example, I run fast. He runs fast. She runs fast. The train is very fast. The car is very fast. And rapid, it is exactly this. Both of these words holds exactly the same meaning, but the words themselves are different from each other. So these are known as synonyms. The words which are different from each other, which sounds different from each other, but mean the same, which means the same. They are known as synonyms. For example, let me give you another example. Hot. Just a second. Oh, it's so hot today. Means what? The temperature, the weather is hot. Today is a very hot day. Means it is not very cold. It's a very humid and hot day. Right? Another word for hot would be scorching. Today, let's say today the scorching heat barely will keep anyone alive. Right? So hot, it's so hot today, and scorching is today the scorching heat barely will keep anyone alive. It means it's hot. Why it is hot? Because the sun is shining so differently. It's so closer to us that, we feel that kind of a heat. And the scorching means, the scorching is actually the heat that comes out from the sun. So both of these means the same thing, but the word is different. Okay. So this is all about the basics, and certainly I'll make it very easy for you if you come to know the language. And I hope to see you online, guys, very soon, so that I can be a very good teacher to you. And if you have any kind of, any questions, just please ask me whenever possible. And it will be, I'll be very much interested in teaching you the very exact thing and in a very easy way to know what English, what spoken English is all about and how to speak it. You just have to know a couple of rules, and that's it. So, thank you.